Hello, everyone. My name is Mohsen, and this is a joint work with my colleagues, Mainack Mondal from IIT Kharagpur, and my PhD advisor, Aniket from Purdue University. Over the years, social media has become a platform where individuals share their thoughts and personal information, which is viewed by a wide variety of audiences. In some cases, these contents contain some damaging or sensitive information which a malicious data collector can leverage to exploit the individuals. Moreover, the steps and actions that us as users take to change our privacy preferences or when we want to hide our unwanted information can help the malicious entity to discover the sensitive content. This is also known as the Stuyvesant effect, which some of us might be familiar with. So with that in mind, let's look at some cases where users try to hide their unwanted information by deleting them. In the first category, we have the publicization of the deleted posts of the celebrities and politicians, which most of us might have seen a few in the news. However, we see that this is not limited to celebrities. Filippo Supreme, which translates to should not delete, is a Twitter account that publishes the deleted tweets of not only celebrities and politicians, but also normal daily French users. For example, here we are seeing a tweet and retweet of an individual that was removed, and this user has less than 1,000 followers. We also find that the problem associated with content deletion is not limited to targeted attacks. In fact, there exist multiple web services that are finding and hoarding deleted content across different social platforms, some of which are presented on the slide. And later, this information can be used against the users. Also, by looking into the different deletion mechanisms, we see that deletion privacy involves designing and enforcing access control rules to regulate when and how information about the deletion events are revealed to others. And unfortunately, earlier research did not attempt to uncover these systematic access rules. And more specifically, there is no prior work on understanding the need for providing deletion privacy to the social media users. So in this work, we take the first steps toward understanding the user's perception of deletion privacy. We came up with three main research questions. First is the user's experiences with deletion on the social platforms. And the second is what contextual factors do rules regarding the acceptability of revealing deletion events depend on. And lastly, we want to know whether the existing mechanisms today are effective and useful for providing privacy to the users. To answer our research questions, we conducted a user study on Prolific Academic. We recruited a total of 205 skilled participants from US and Europe, where our European participants were from 13 different countries, but the majority of them were from UK, followed by Portugal and Poland. After discarding the responses that did not pass our validity and sanity checks, we ended up with almost an even split between US and Europe. The survey time took about 25 minutes on average across all the participants, and we found that our sample was nearly gender balanced, where 51% identified themselves as female and 48% as male. Our participants were slightly more educated than the general US population, where 55% of the participants either had a bachelor's or a graduate degree. And despite the fact that participants in crowdsourcing platforms are considered to be very tech savvy, 67% of our participants reported that they don't have any background experience in the IT field. However, our participants were considered active users of social platforms, where 75% of them were daily users and 91% were using the platforms at least once a week. Since we are short in time, in the following slide, I'm just going to highlight the main findings, and I invite you all to look at the paper for more details. We started off by investigating the deletion patterns of the users. We saw that among 191 participants, 82% of them reported that they actually have deleted the post in the past. And interesting enough, more than 1/3 of all the deletions happened for the posts that were published more than 7 days. This shows that the old posts on social platforms are not necessarily forgotten or ignored, and users actively care about them and remove the unwanted ones. The top reason for post deletions was identified as posts becoming irrelevant as time passed, which goes back to the previous point of like deleting the outdated post. Other reasons that were mentioned were fixing spelling and grammar issues, posts not getting enough attention, cleaning up the profile for a new job or relationship. But we also saw a significant number of participants reporting some sensitive topic for the reason of their deletion, such as alcohol, drug, race, politics, sexual content, violence, and some others. Which brings us to our next point, where more than half of the participants thought that indeed deleted posts hide some sensitive and damaging information about the users. For our second research question that we wanted to answer, what contextual factors does deletion privacy depend on, we used contextual integrity theory to create a set of contextual variables to collect the user's feedback in our survey. Again, I cannot go into the details because of time, but contextual integrity allows us to define privacy as appropriate flows of information, which in our case was a total of 900 that we investigated. The most negative flows were for the cases that deletions are noticed by large-scale data collectors, such as a third-party company or the government, compared to other social groups, such as family members, friends, and even their coworkers. We also saw that deleted posts, that the subject of the post was the users themselves, required more protection than any other subject inside the posts. Also, not knowing how deletions were noticed were considered not acceptable to the users, which is consistent with the human desire for cognitive closure. And interestingly enough, hiding the post that did not get enough attention was the most concern for the users. We also looked into the demographic differences, and we found that the higher income users were more concerned about their deletions, and those that ended their relationship in the past were more conservative about their deletions being noticed. We also saw some differences between US and European participants, where coworker social group was considered much a closer group in the US than Europe. And someone stalking the user's account was more of a concern for the European participants than the US participants. And finally, European female participants and older age Europeans were more conservative about their deletions compared to the US counterparts. Next, we compared the utility of 4 different mechanisms by showing the participants a 1 to 2 minute video for each of them. The first mechanism is the selective deletions, which is the most popular method of deleting content today. In this mechanism, the user's posts remain available until the user themselves select unwanted posts and delete them specifically. Next, we have pre-scheduled deletion, which removes the user's content when a specific criteria is met. For example, a predefined time or a period of inactivity. For example, Snapchat or Instagram stories are removed after some period of time. Next, we have the intermittent withdrawal mechanism that offers a deniability guarantee for users' deletions using availability privacy trade-off. This work was presented in PETS 2019. And the last mechanism is called decoy deletions, where a set of decoy posts are chosen from a pool of benign crowdsourced posts and deleted along with a damaging post. As a result, the adversary's task just becomes harder in identifying the damaging one among all the deleted posts. So after presenting the video, we asked the following question for each of the mechanisms. We asked them, how effective is that mechanism in hiding the damaging and sensitive posts of the users in presence of a large-scale adversary that they were concerned with in the second research question? The results showed that more than half of the participants think that the most used deletion mechanism, which is the selective deletion, is not effective in providing privacy for the deleted post. On the other hand, they find the 3 mechanisms to be more effective, but in our results, we didn't see any statistical differences between these 3. We also investigated the usefulness of each of these mechanisms by asking the users to describe cases where they find the mechanisms to be useful and the cases that they find it not to be useful. For selective deletions, although they don't think that it can provide privacy for them, They really like the fact that the users are in full control of their posts. For pre-scheduled deletions, they really dislike that there is no archive or history of the posts after they are deleted. And for intermittent withdrawals, they didn't like that they have a limited control on their post, where as in this mechanism, all the non-deleted posts are periodically being hidden. And lastly, for decoy deletion, they didn't find it that useful because they were relying on the assistance of others to create that pool of decoy posts for their damaging posts. So before ending the survey, we also asked the users whether they can think of other ways to protect their deletions. Although lots of them find the mechanisms not to be effective, more than half of them couldn't come up with any other mechanism or any idea of how to protect their posts. 29 participants suggested that deletion problem can be raised altogether if we don't post any regrettable content or have only private accounts. I mean, this can be the most effective solution, but it's an impractical one because we cannot foresee and predict what's going to be damaging in the future. Some of the users proposed some changes to the form mechanisms, and by changing it and making it more useful, for example, having an archive for the pre-scheduled deletions. 8 participants suggested proactive approaches that use models, machine learning models, to predict whether users may regret the post in the future. But again, this is an overhead on the platform, and also these models cannot fully predict what's going to be damaging in the future. 8 participants suggested rate limiting the malicious large-scale adversaries to have some blackout period, which can work in some cases, but related work also has shown that rate limiting large crawlers is a challenging task today. And 4 participants also suggested that we do some morphing of the post text. So instead of deleting them, we start editing them, and whenever we're comfortable enough, we can either delete them or just leave them. Actually, this can become a feature of a social platform where it happens automatically after some time and generalizes it and removes the sensitivity. So in conclusion, in this talk, first we went over the case that the privacy of the users have been violated and saw that no work has been done on the user's perspective of deletion privacy, which motivated our study. Next, we saw that the responses from the users that indeed hiding deletions is an indication of hiding something damaging and sensitive to the users. In the contextual integrity study, we saw that users really want to protect against large-scale data collectors. And lastly, we saw that in the current deletion mechanisms implemented today, they seem to be ineffective in providing privacy to the users. With that, I end my talk. Thank you for listening. Looking forward to your questions.